The American financial system is often described as a marketplace of freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to switch, freedom to customize. From the outside, it looks like every individual is in control, browsing shelves of financial products the same way they browse groceries. But once you step inside the structure, a different picture emerges. What looks like choice is often just variation inside a tightly controlled system. Different labels, similar outcomes. Most people in the United States don't wake up thinking about financial architecture. They wake up thinking about income, bills, stability, and future security. The system understands this deeply. That's why financial products are not built around education or clarity. They are built around behavior. The goal is not to confuse openly, but to guide quietly. Not force, but funnel. The illusion starts with how options are presented. On paper, Americans are offered dozens of ways to save, borrow, invest, and protect money. In reality, most of these options share the same structural DNA. They move money in predictable directions, generate recurring fees, and reward long-term dependency rather than independence. Choice exists, but only within boundaries that protect the system first. This is where language becomes important. Financial products are marketed using words like flexibility, rewards, protection, and opportunity. These words feel empowering, but they rarely explain the cost of access. The system doesn't need people to understand how money flows. It only needs people to keep participating. Complexity works in its favor because complexity discourages exit. In the United States, income enters households through structured channels. Payroll systems, tax withholding, benefit timing, and payment cycles are standardized. Outflows are just as structured. Housing, utilities, insurance, healthcare, and education are positioned as fixed obligations. Financial products sit in the middle, managing the gap between income and obligations. That gap is where profit lives. Many products claim to offer control, but control is limited to surface-level decisions. You can choose the color of the interface, the timing of payments, or the branding tone. What you cannot choose is how risk is distributed, how fees are embedded, or how rules change when conditions tighten. Those decisions are centralized, not personal. Another layer of illusion comes from comparison. Americans are encouraged to compare products against each other, not against outcomes. The question becomes which option is better, not whether the structure itself is beneficial. This keeps attention focused horizontally instead of vertically. People compare brands instead of questioning frameworks. Financial education is often offered as the solution, but most education focuses on navigation, not design. It teaches people how to use products efficiently, not whether the products align with their long-term stability. This creates skilled users, not empowered decision-makers. The system benefits from users who know just enough to stay engaged. Marketing reinforces this by attaching identity to financial behavior. Responsibility, success, and adulthood are framed through product usage. Opting out is rarely presented as a valid path. Stability is portrayed as participation, even when participation increases long-term strain. This emotional framing is subtle but powerful. The illusion of choice also relies on urgency. Limited time offers, changing rates, and seasonal promotions create pressure to decide quickly. When decisions are rushed, structure goes unquestioned. Speed benefits the seller, not the buyer. Time to reflect is quietly discouraged. Over time, this environment shapes behavior. People stop asking big questions and start optimizing small ones. How can I lower this fee? How can I stretch this payment? How can I access more flexibility? The system stays intact while individuals adjust themselves around it. What makes this illusion especially strong in the United States is trust in institutions. Stability, enforcement, and scale create confidence. People assume that if something is widely offered, it must be reasonable. If millions use it, it must be safe. This social proof reduces skepticism and normalizes dependency. But real choice requires transparency. It requires understanding not just what a product does today, but how it behaves under stress. It requires knowing who benefits when conditions change. Most products do not advertise this because it would weaken their appeal. The illusion of choice is not accidental. It is a design feature. A system that offers too much clarity risks losing control. A system that offers curated options maintains engagement while preserving power. Understanding this doesn't require rejecting the system entirely. It requires seeing it clearly. When people recognize that choice is shaped, not free-floating, their relationship with money changes. They stop chasing optimization and start seeking alignment. They ask fewer product questions and more structural ones. That shift doesn't make headlines, but it quietly restores agency. Once the illusion is recognized, the next question becomes more practical. If choice is structured, how does someone operate inside the system without being consumed by it? The answer is not avoidance, because avoidance is rarely possible. The answer is positioning, understanding where pressure is applied, where flexibility is real, and where it is artificial. In the United States, financial products are designed around predictability, predictable income flows, predictable behavior, predictable reactions to stress. When systems can model behavior, they can price it. When behavior becomes predictable, it becomes profitable. This is why personalization often feels shallow. The core mechanics remain unchanged. One of the most misunderstood ideas in personal finance is flexibility. Flexibility sounds positive, but it often means delayed consequences. Products that advertise flexibility typically shift cost into the future. They reduce friction today by increasing obligation tomorrow. This trade-off is rarely framed honestly because immediate relief is more attractive than long-term clarity. Another key mechanism is fragmentation. Instead of seeing finances as one system, individuals are encouraged to manage them as separate parts. One product for saving, another for spending, another for protection, another for growth. Each piece feels manageable on its own. Together, they create complexity that is difficult to audit. Fragmentation hides total cost. The system also benefits from asymmetry of information. Providers understand aggregate behavior across millions of users. Individuals understand only their own experience. This imbalance allows products to be optimized at scale while remaining opaque at the personal level. When problems arise, they are framed as individual mismanagement rather than structural design. Risk is another area where choice feels real but isn't. People believe they are choosing their level of risk, but most products predefine acceptable ranges. True risk transfer happens behind the scenes through pooling, pricing, and contractual language few people read. The user experiences outcomes, not mechanics. Time is used strategically as well. Long-term products create psychological distance between decision and consequence. Short-term rewards encourage sign-up, while long-term costs fade into abstraction. Humans are not wired to feel future pressure strongly. The system is built around this limitation. What makes all of this sustainable is normalization. These structures have existed long enough to feel natural. People inherit them culturally before they encounter them financially. By the time someone questions the system, they are already embedded within it. Exit becomes costly, not just financially, but socially. So where does real agency exist? It exists in cash flow awareness. Not budgeting in the traditional sense, but understanding timing, direction, and dependency. Knowing when money enters, when it exits, and who controls the rules at each stage. This awareness reduces vulnerability to surface-level offers. Agency also exists in simplicity. Systems that rely on complexity depend on distraction. The fewer moving parts someone has, the fewer points of pressure exist. This doesn't mean minimalism as an aesthetic. It means structural clarity. Fewer products, clearer terms, slower decisions. Another overlooked area is optionality. Real choice comes from having the ability to say no without penalty. Products that lock people into long timelines or conditional benefits reduce optionality. Products that allow exit without loss preserve it. Optionality is rarely marketed because it reduces predictability for providers. Language matters here too. Words like upgrade, unlock, and maximize frame participation as progress. In reality, progress is not always additive. Sometimes it is subtractive. Removing unnecessary complexity can create more stability than adding new tools. This perspective shifts how success is measured. Instead of asking whether a product performs well, the better question is whether it reduces dependence. Does it increase resilience? Does it preserve flexibility under stress? Does it behave fairly when conditions worsen? These questions rarely appear in advertisements. The illusion of choice survives because it aligns with optimism. People want to believe that better decisions alone guarantee better outcomes. This belief places responsibility entirely on the individual and absolves structure from scrutiny. It is comforting but incomplete. Breaking the illusion doesn't require cynicism. It requires literacy at the system level, seeing patterns instead of offers, understanding incentives instead of slogans. This kind of literacy is quiet. It doesn't trend, but it compounds over time. In the American financial environment, the most valuable skill is not picking the best product. It is recognizing when products are solving problems they helped create. Once that loop is visible, decisions become calmer. Urgency fades. Offers lose their emotional grip. The system will continue to present choices. That won't change. But individuals who see the structure can choose differently, even within the same options. They move slower. They ask better questions. They prioritize stability over novelty. The illusion of choice is powerful because it feels personal. But clarity is more powerful because it is transferable. Once learned, it applies everywhere. Not just to one product, but to the entire ecosystem. And that is where real financial confidence comes from. Not from having more options, but from needing fewer of them.